May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts always be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Thank you all for allowing me this privilege today, and especially Reverend Grant and the choir. So God breaks into my life and yours all the time. Advent is this wonderful, quiet time of waiting, a time to prepare for the light to break through. Like when someone is pregnant, you know there's preparation, there is growth, and there is tremendous unknown of when this new life will arrive. And then God breaks into our heart through the pain of birth with an explosion of unimaginable love. We are living in a time when people are forgetting God. Culturally, God is money, God is job, status, empty of a deep God connection. It creates a place of loneliness and despair. I'm reminded of the previous Surgeon General's warning about isolation and loneliness. But for people gathered here, you know the beauty of God's love and presence in life through this community, through faith, through family and friends. Such a gift. John the Baptist in the Gospel reminds us, don't forget God. Do not forget God. Turn away from your past ways. Practice inclusion and welcoming, not divisiveness, which nurture forgiveness, reconciliation, and wholeness. God's greatest desire is for us to be whole, as we know divine presence in every moment, coming home to ourselves. This takes practice, this being awake. How and when does God break into our lives? Do we recognize it? Do we ignore it? Do we embrace or embody it? As a child, I had a recurring dream. There was a beautiful candle shining brightly that lived in my chest right over my heart. And there was a door that I could open and see and feel it. No one else knew it was there. It was uniquely my own, and it filled me with light and love. I always knew it was available. I've come to realize that this was one of God's first breaking-ins that I was aware of, so that I knew I was never alone. We need faith's grounding in order to embody God's shimmering presence. Faith is not a certainty, far from it. Faith means that we walk in this path of life in a wilderness, uncertain of what will come next, but trusting in our divine relationship because God's love will never cease. Sharon Salzberg, a Buddhist, in her book Faith, describes that faith, in contrast to belief, is not a definition of reality, not received answers, but an active, open state that makes us willing to explore. Beliefs come from the outside, from another person or tradition. But faith comes from within, from our live participation in the process of discovery. Faith requires that we let go. Let go to open up and receive the divine energy that will lead us forward, to follow our call, putting faith into action. In 1979, pregnant with our first child, I remember walking along the path up here. We only lived a few doors away. I started coming here, though. I started coming to St. George's. A lifelong Episcopalian, the miracle of becoming a mother, God called me back to church. All of our 3 children were baptized and confirmed here, and they called St. George's their other family. As time went on, I got involved, and then I got over-involved in almost every area of ministry, which Tilly Jo knows. In the late 80s, I was sitting here, like you are, with my eyes closed during liturgy, and I heard Reverend Diana Clark from the altar. God broke in, and I thought, oh my God, God speaks to women too. How novel to hear a female voice as if for the first time. Diana also created a women's spiritual group, Journeyers, where we built a community of women whose faith called them into action here at St. George's. It was in this group that bubbles began to percolate, and I was terrified. What do you mean, God? You want me to what? God was breaking through into my heart, calling me to grow in faith. I couldn't speak of this publicly. I tried to ignore it. Does that sound familiar? God was calling for me to do more. So seminary seemed like a good start, trying to deny anything beyond this move. My plan was to go to school in a year or two. And after 2 hours with then Dean Ginny Samuel at Drew Seminary, she asked, when do you want to apply? A voice that turned out to be mine said, right now, but I didn't know it was me until the words were out. God broke through again. Not my plan, but yours. Through solitude, meditation, prayer, and surrender, God turned me away from past ways. With pain and excitement in my heart, God teased out my call to go to Bishop Spong to ask about ordination, now 30 years ago. In our women's group, I was raised up by all of these women to put my faith into action. I recall crying as I was explaining this call. I am still close with many of these faithful friends, one of whom is here today. I am so grateful for this community of St. George's. John says, put away past ways. Do not forget God. So listen to how God breaks into your lives. Advent provides precious time to prepare through quiet and self-reflection in faith. Previous men in my lineage listened carefully as well. So you have to understand that I am not the first priest in my family. This thread is very long with my ancestors. It extends to the 1500s, and perhaps before there is recorded history, but my paternal grandfather and maternal great-grandfather, whom I never met, were only two. But with no sure count, I only know that there are lots of them. But the point is not how many, but that I carry the divine energies in my DNA that has been passed down in a thread through all these priests. They listened as I continue to learn how to listen to how God breaks into my heart. This is not an accident, it seems. It's more like destiny, to be the first female priest in my ancestry, because I followed God's call, listened to God's breaking into my heart here. So how do we know God's presence that can break our hearts with suffering, that cracks them open to receive ecstatic joy? We have the beautiful words of our liturgy. We have the gift of singing, bringing us joyful frequencies and energy that kinesthetically embrace us. We may have the suffering of a disease or cancer, or the death of a loved one. 6 years ago, I had cancer. God broke in, providing learnings of hope and much, much deeper patience, which I needed, and a circle of love that did not seem possible. All these were opportunities to open to God's breaking into our being. What are some of those in your lives? Meditation and dreams are exquisite ways where God may break into our hearts. We had a meditation group here long ago where we dove deep into the river of God. During one evening, the night my aunt and godmother died, 5 months to the day that my father had died, we shared a centering prayer meditation. Sitting on one of those metal chairs, those folding chairs in a group, the chair got really hot, and I could barely remain seated. All these relatives who had died were flaming across my chest. There was such a joy in their hearts and mine. It was so hot I had to slow my breathing down. It was like Moses and the burning bush. I was not consumed. Yet God gave me such a gift of presence to know that they were all at peace. Love was surrounding us all. And then there are dreams, and we know those in the Bible that guide people. And then there are dreams that we have. Yesterday, I was able to preach at my dear friend Jane's funeral service at Christ Church in Short Hills. It happened in part because of a powerful dream that I had before she died, that I was assisting her to go home to the light. In the dream, she asked me to take her in a very simple rocking chair, and I seated her in it, and I pushed her up to the window to see the Christmas tree lights. But as we arrived at the window, a shimmering light embodied us so powerfully that it felt like together we were in another realm. Now remember, dreams are not in linear time. I thought it meant she had died. But no, dreams are on God's time, Kairos time, where there is no linear time. This was a holy invitation to assist her going home. When I told her, she said, "Yes, I'd like you to do this with me." God broke into our hearts in this dream, and I was able to humbly and faithfully, with exquisite love, be a guide in her sacred journey. Being intentional in asking God for dreams, asking for observations about our deepest connection to God, may lead us to experience the beauty of God's breaking into all our lives. Learning to trust our intuition, our right brain feeling, not just our left, our creative side, is a way to open up to God's presence that wants to be with us. Listening to our lives and relationships, listening to our community of St. George's and all the wondrous ministries we share. So where, when, and how is God trying to reach you? God is breaking in all the time. Pay attention. Trust that your faith will keep opening your heart to receive this precious, shimmering presence of God to guide you. Always return to God. Become a sign of hope, of peace, of joy, of God's love, and God's presence. Be God's loving presence. May it be so. Amen.